Hello, I'm John Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'd like to talk a bit about Grangemouth. Now, as many of you know, I was the Scottish National Party, the SNP, candidate at the general election for Alloa and Grangemouth. It was a new seat and I lost to the Labour Party candidate. Now, there were many issues at play, but for lots of people, especially obviously in Grangemouth, the most important issue was the future of Grangemouth itself. Not just for the highly skilled workers who worked there, but for the whole town, which relied so heavily on Grangemouth. Now, we had a number of hustings where candidates debate one another, and I sat beside Mr. Leishman, Brian Leishman, the Labour Party candidate, and he made a number of promises to people at those hustings. And the most significant promise that he made was that if people were to vote for the Labour Party, if it won the general election, would save Grangemouth. It was utterly unambiguous. It was a clear promise that he made. He made it on Twitter, he made it in leaflets, he made it at public meetings, he made it whether he was standing on his own or whether he was standing with Anas Sarwar, his party leader. There was no doubt about the promise. And he went further. He said that he would have a personal hotline to the Prime Minister. When Keir Starmer was elected, he would phone him and he would talk to him. I remember at one husting saying to him, honestly, and I don't mean to be patronising or rude, but Keir Starmer is unlikely to know who you are in a Labour landslide. You certainly will never be given his number, and you'll certainly never have a one-to-one meeting on him. That's just not the way landslides work. Now, fast forward a couple of months to the aftermath of the election, and Labour has announced it is going to do nothing to save Grangemouth. Grangemouth is going to close. Now, this is important to Scotland as other terrible closures in the past. Ravenscraig, for example. It will rob Scotland of an absolutely vital part of its industrial makeup. It will rob Scotland of enormous skills. It will leave Grangemouth as a community de-skilled, and it will leave the town impoverished. And people are right to be angry. One of the most sleekest performances I think I have ever seen by a politician, certainly a party leader, came during the course of the last few days, where Anas Sarwar was challenged by a journalist about his betrayal of the people of Grangemouth. And I think we should have a quick look at it now.
You said you would save the jobs at Grangemouth. Have you let the workers down?
Look, it's really important here that we recognise the concerns in the Grangemouth community, that we are working to deliver a positive transition for the community of Grangemouth and that industrial site, and that's something that we'll continue to press.
But they're closing it. They're closing it by the end of June. The jobs will be gone. There is no positivity there. You said during the election you would save the jobs at the refinery, and you're not.
But we have to find a positive transition for the workforce and the community of Grangemouth, and that's something I continue to press.
But you said you'd save the jobs during the election, and now you're not.
This is a privately owned company, and we have to try and attract positive investment.
So did you lie during the election when you said you'd save the jobs? Were you misleading voters?
We have to get a positive destination for the community of Grangemouth, and that means looking at what's coming out from Project Willow, making sure we're attracting investment into Grangemouth, and making sure we're delivering the clean
Project
energy
Willow
transition.
could be years away. Did you mislead the voters? As your own MP, Brian Leishman, suggests that you misled the voters during the election.
So this is a private company, but I recognise the concern.
But you said you would save the jobs during the election. You said vote Labour to save the jobs. People voted Labour, you've got a Labour MP and you've not saved the jobs.
Well, I would emphasise, Colin, that Labour has been in government for 6 months. The previous Tory government and this current SNP government have known this was coming 5 years earlier, and they had no plan in place to secure a positive future. We are moving forward, partly with the Grangemouth growth deal, but also also with Project Willow, money coming from the UK government to try and find a positive future for Grangemouth, and that's what I want to secure.
You said on an STV Leaders debate during the election, vote Labour to save the jobs at Grangemouth. You failed.
To deliver a clean energy transition, to get
You said you would save the jobs at Grangemouth. You specifically said you would save the jobs at the refinery.
This is a privately owned company, as you know, Colin, but we have to get positive investment into Grangemouth and secure a positive destination for that community, and that's what I'm determined to do.
So far you've failed.
Well, I look forward to being in government in May 2026.
So that's Anas Sarwar, the party leader. But what about Brian Leishman, the Labour Party candidate who made those specific promises to the people of Grangemouth at the time of the election? Remember, he also said that he could guarantee that if people voted for him and he became the Labour Party MP, that Grangemouth would be saved. Remember his unambiguous promises? Well, now he seems, as you'd expect, deeply uncomfortable to have been exposed in the way that he's been.
Tell us about the conversations you've been having with the UK Labour government on this. Whose doors have you been knocking on, and what are you been hearing from them?
I've taken this right to the Prime Minister. This week I've written a letter to him requesting a cross-governmental meeting, including myself as the constituency MP, unite the trade union involved and also refinery owners as well. I've had a Prime Minister's question, I've had repeated questions to the Chancellor, to the Secretary of State for Scotland, to the Secretary of State for Business and Trade, and also Energy and Net Zero.
That's from you to them. What have you been getting back from them? What's the Chancellor said to you? What's the Prime Minister said to you?
Well, I think it's fair to say as well is that the answers have been incredibly underwhelming and not good enough, really, because we're not just talking about my constituency, my local community. We're talking about all of Scotland. This is a Scotland issue, and indeed, if Scottish Labour MPs are to be at the heart of a UK government, then we've got to put Scotland first here, and you don't get a bigger issue than the Grangemouth refinery closure.
Well, I don't know what you made of that, but there seems to be two choices. Either Brian Leishman deceived the people knowingly before the election, or he was just somehow or other so glaikit that he went along with assurances that he was given by the party leadership in private. If so, he should tell us that he was given those assurances. But, looking at it, those are two equally uncomfortable positions. A gormless, innocent man playing in the big grown-up world of politics who didn't understand what he was saying, in which case he shouldn't be an MP, or somebody who deliberately misled the electorate in order to get elected, in which case he shouldn't be an MP. The only honourable course under these circumstances is for Brian Leishman to resign as a Member of Parliament. He egregiously misled the people of Grangemouth. What he told them was completely false. And the honourable course of action would be to resign and to force a by-election. And of course, this isn't the only time that the Scottish Labour Party has misled the people of Scotland. There have been a series of promises on Grangemouth. The promises that were given to WASPy women, of course, which have also been broken. The winter fuel payment, which of course has been withdrawn by Labour Party members of Parliament. And Anas Sarwar's promise before the last election, where he said, "Read my lips, there will be no austerity if a Labour government is elected." Well, try telling that to Scotland's pensioners, and try telling that to the people of Grangemouth.